Welcome to the Birdhouse Dynasty show. Thank you for joining tonight. And tonight we get to rehash this insane week of free agency in the NFL. Tonight we're going to start with the NFC. We'll go into the AFC in the next video. But tonight we're going to break down all the teams in the NFC, see what their moves were, see what the values now are of the players involved, as well as some of the players that are directly involved with those moves. And so if the quarterback gets a little bump for gaining a wide receiver or gets a little downgrade for losing a wide receiver, we'll find out that today. But first, one thing. All right, we're back. Yes, Devin, I love you for what you did for us a couple of years ago, helping bring a second Super Bowl title to Tampa. But now we must move on. And even though you are not dead to me, I do definitely wish you well in Philly. And may you prosper, except for when you play the BUCS in the regular season and the playoffs. Speaking of dead to me, that is Tiki Barber's message for Saquon Barkley as he took his talent on across the river and down to Philly and made a huge splash signing with the Eagles. So let's take a look at the prospects of Saquon Barkley now with the Eagles. I mean, can they get any richer on that offense? I know that they seem to have lost Jason Kelce, their all-star center, who may be one of the, if not the greatest centers to ever play the game. But I do think that they can replace that position and still have a great offense this coming season. So obviously Saquon gets a slight bump. I don't know that we want to go too crazy on him, though. So don't go trading all of your picks just for Saquon Barkley. All right? Let's be realistic here, pump the brakes a little, and just understand that while, yes, he's on a better offense, and yes, he probably will have more opportunities to score touchdowns in Philly, still realize that there is Jalen Hurts there, who does like to run in a few touchdowns of it on his own. So, though I love Saquon's prospects as he starts a new chapter in Philadelphia and hopes to get a ring there, I don't want to quite say that he reached CMC level by going to Philly, but I do think that Saquon is one of the very few backs that does have Hall of Fame talent. And so this second chapter of his career could lead to greatness. And I mean, the guy is just uber talented. And I do see him prospering in the next 2, 3, 4 years, whatever he stays in Philly. And so if you have no running backs, maybe you're rebuilding and are set now at quarterback and wide receiver, I wouldn't say Saquon's a bad option to go after. I just don't want you unloading, too much for him, because understand that we have to temper our expectations on him. I don't see him quite matching McCaffrey's level of production. However, he still could be at least in the top 6 to 8 running backs this coming season. So I would also give Jalen Hurts a slight bump now. I've been pumping Jalen Hurts up over the last 4 or 5 videos, and I've traded for him in a league. I just see that Eagles offense bouncing back, maybe not quite to the level of 2 years ago, but I don't see them struggling as much as they did in the second half of last season. And I think that Hurts' value has been depressed based on that second half of last season. So I do see Jalen is still a buy. And so go out and see what you can, see what the Jalen Hurts owner in your league wants for him. And moving on in the NFC East, we have the Dallas Cowboys, who refuse to go after any veteran running back. They also didn't do anything at wide receiver, so it still looks like Brandon Cooks will be there. I'm not sure about Michael Gallup, so you could see them go after somebody in the draft. Jalen Tolbert is a sneaky pickup right now, may I say. I don't know. He really disappointed that rookie season, but he showed a few flashes last season. I don't know that I want to put a whole lot of faith in him, so don't go wild trying to trade for him. But if he's out there on waivers, he's not a bad option. So we'll not worry too much about the backfield in Dallas. I see them either maybe going after a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but probably going to grab a couple of rookie running backs and going that route. I think they should be fine doing that. Dallas did that a few years ago. If you all remember Felix Jones and Marion Barber III, they grabbed that tandem 1 year in the draft back in, 2008 was it, I think? That was the great running back class of, who was it? McFadden, Adrian Peterson, Jonathan Stewart, Felix Jones, Rashad Mendenhall, and of course Chris Johnson, all in the first round of that draft. What we had going on this week had a lot to do with the 2017 running back class that was so awesome. And now those guys are nearing the twilight of their career. However, when the NFL teams took a look at those guys who still have something left in the tank versus a rookie supplanting them in their backfields, most of the teams that, had a question mark at running back preferred to go the route of the veteran. And ironically, that's kind of how I'm looking at things at the running back position in Dynasty. I look at running backs, I tend to just look at a 1 to 2 year window. And I don't want to buy into this 3, 4, 5 year dream of having a running back that's just going to dominate. I mean, guys like that only come around once in a lifetime. Okay, maybe a couple times in a lifetime. Right now, basically, we have CMC and maybe Derrick Henry that are Hall of Famers. So if you can grab those guys, they're probably worth it. Saquon is on the borderline of that, again, but I don't want to delve too deep into him. Again, I don't want to push it like you have to go get him. So I think Dallas will be just fine. They'll be slinging it around the yard plenty. So Dak is still going to be a solid option. CD, of course, is awesome. And you'll see what I have to say about that stack in a couple of videos coming up when I do my top stacks video at the wide receiver and quarterback positions. Moving along, though, in the NFC East, we also had the Washington Commanders go out and grab another free agent running back in Austin Eckler. So most of you might see Brian Robinson as kind of a bum now, but I don't. I see him as basically having the same role as he's had the last couple of seasons. So if somebody thinks that Brian Robinson has really lost value now, he might be an okay buy. Austin Eckler, on the other hand, I don't know. This might be your last chance to get something decent for him. So if somebody wants to give you like a first or second, I wouldn't mind doing that for Eckler. I don't see a first anymore, but maybe you could pull off a Austin Eckler in a second for a first. That might happen. You never know. You gotta ask. That's all I can say. All that can happen is they say no, right? So, other than that, the Washington Commanders also decided to drop Logan Thomas into the free agency pool and get older by picking up Zach Ertz. So, well, we basically thought Zach Ertz was left for dead when he was cut from Arizona last season. And now he has, I guess, somewhat of an opportunity in Washington. We really don't know who their quarterback is going to be because Sam Howell got dealt to the Seahawks. Trade we'll have a message for later. And they also brought Marcus Mariota into the fold there. Definitely don't see Mariota as the starter, though. It looks like at the number 2 pick, they will be definitely going quarterback or possibly trading down, but still getting a quarterback. Either way, they're going to have a rookie there, and that rookie likely will be starting many games this season. Also in the East, we have the Giants, who, of course, lost Barkley to the Eagles, and they went out there and signed Singletary. So I guess he isn't so much trash after all. I was very hesitant on Devin Singletary's value this offseason. But now he'll get an opportunity to be the guy with the Giants. Don't know how good that O-line is there, though. I definitely could see them taking a tackle at number 6. The Giants are a team, though, that really needs talent everywhere. So, ideally for the Giants, I see a team like Minnesota sitting at 11 and also having a pick at 23 in the first round, making a deal possibly together so that the Vikings can grab a quarterback at 6 and the Giants can add 2 first-round picks this year because they need talent everywhere, and they don't necessarily need a quarterback, especially when they're paying Daniel Jones $40 million. You don't really want to draft a rookie and then maybe have Daniel Jones sit on your bench eating up $40 million. So I think they're stuck with Daniel Jones another season, and if they can get an offensive lineman and then a wide receiver in this deep wide receiver class, maybe at 11 or at 23 if they were to get the Vikings 2 picks, anywhere in the first, second round, they need a wide receiver. And so I see the Giants making some kind of move on draft day or slightly before that to help the talent pool in that organization. Now we move on to the NFC North, where we have the Detroit Lions. Not really doing a whole lot, but moving on to the Packers, we do have another huge acquisition in Josh Jacobs. Now, they brought in Josh Jacobs, and for a little time there, we were thinking it was going to be Jacobs and Aaron Jones, but they were quick to act on that. They let Aaron Jones go, who then went to the Vikings the next morning. So we had sort of a little domino effect everywhere at the running back position. I'm not going to run through that whole domino pile for you, but let's get back to Jacobs and his effect on the Packers offense. I do see him as a little bit more of a bruiser than Aaron Jones was, so he's going to hold up a little better. Aaron Jones, obviously, he would miss quite a few games here and there. It seemed like every year you could count on him missing 4 to 5 games. But then when he'd come back at full strength. And as we saw in the late season and playoff run, he was pretty amazing still. So I think the Vikings still got somebody who has a year or 2 left in the tank in Aaron Jones. And all in all, the Packers are paying about the same amount of money, and they're getting 4 years younger at the position. So I see that as a win for them. They are losing that explosive burst from Aaron Jones to their offense, but Josh Jacobs will likely be able to hold up a little better than Aaron Jones. So the only thing I do want to say with him is temper your expectations. Just like on Barkley, Josh Jacobs isn't going to be necessarily your savior at running back, okay? Note that Jordan Love had the highest pass attempts inside the 10-yard line last year. So, unless LaFleur wants to change his ways on that and hand it off a lot more inside the 10, I don't want you thinking that you're in line for 15 to 20 touchdowns from Josh Jacobs. Maybe 10 is possible, but I'd say more like 7 or 8 is realistic, okay? So just keep your expectations realistic when you're out there trying to fish for running backs. Right now, again, still isn't, the ideal time to be trading for running backs, especially these veterans who just signed. You kind of want to let the hype settle down and maybe wait to see who actually gets drafted to what teams. I mean, the Packers, sure, they're bringing A.J. Dillon back. I doubt they draft a running back high, but I'm just saying in general, let the hype settle here on these veteran running backs that got new teams. Don't get too excited and overpay for these guys. All right? So we also have in Minnesota a new addition at the quarterback position, as of course Kirk Cousins moved on to the Atlanta Falcons. So we had the Vikings bring in Sam Darnold from the Niners, and we're not quite sure what's going to happen with Mr. Darnold. He could end up starting the season for the Vikings. Likely they're going to draft someone at quarterback, so we'll just have to wait and see on that one. And so we have a trade that I talked about, and that was the 109 in a 12-team Superflex tight end premium league, start 10, and it's in my bottom line league. We had Matt trading for the 109 and giving up Sam Howell and Josh Downs in this deal. So this was to a playoff team, People's Champs, and I personally feel this trade is a win-win for each organization. We have Matt going as he's sort of in a rebuild right now. Not a full-on rebuild, I wouldn't say, but gaining an extra first. He already had one or two other firsts. I believe he has the 102 in that league. I really like Josh Downs, actually, so I wasn't crazy about giving him up, but at the 109, he definitely will be able to get a really, really solid rookie wide receiver from this class. Maybe a quarterback if that's where he wants to go. I don't think he really needs a quarterback, but he should definitely be able to get solid wide receiver or do something else with that pick. Who knows? Trade it away for a future first or package it up with something. We'll see what he has in store for us in the upcoming month or two. And then we'll go from there. Again, like I said, I do like Josh Downs and his prospects for the upcoming season with a healthy Anthony Richardson. That should be a very explosive offense in Indy. And Josh Downs, if you look at his analytics, he had a very good season last year as a rookie. And alongside Michael Pittman, who's a target monster, I think that Josh Downs, as the second option in Indy, does deserve plenty of targets himself. So we'll see. I think Downs will have a good sophomore season for the Colts. And the real wild card in this deal, though, is Sam Howell. So Sam Howell is somehow able to beat out Geno Smith and take over the job in Seattle. Well, then the trade probably will lean a little more towards the Howell Downs side. But as we all saw, Sam Howell was pretty inconsistent last year. He did throw a lot. His yardage totals were great. But again, he didn't help the Commanders really win any games. And so it's hard to say. There's a whole new offense being installed in Seattle. Very exciting. I've got a lot of DK Metcalf, so I definitely don't mind the prospects for DK. They should be a little more pass-heavy The offensive coordinator is coming from the University of Washington, and if you watched any college football last year, you know that Michael Penix really threw it a lot. So I do see Seahawks throwing it more this year, and I don't know that that's really Geno's game, if you know what I mean. So this could be a very interesting quarterback battle this summer and into the fall. All right, so moving along in the NFC, we've got well, let me finish up with the Vikings, because right now, Ty Chandler, well, as he was a sell, but now you probably can't get anything for him. You also have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison losing Kirk Cousins, so I don't think it'll affect Justin Jefferson too much. No matter who they bring in there, they're going to see that number one option and sling it to JJ anyway. However, Jordan Addison might see fewer targets. The Vikings slung it around 37 times a game last year, which was third in the league. And I just don't know that whoever they bring in is going to quite throw it that much. They still have the same offense, so they'll still throw it a lot, but I don't know that it'll be as consistent as it was with Cousins. So sort of like what they had in the second half of last season, where for a while they had Josh Dobbs in there, who was just ridiculously inaccurate. But then Nick Mullins came in for a couple games, and he was a little bit better, I guess. Anyway, if they're stuck with Darnold for the whole season, I don't know about Jordan Addison. So, anyway, we'll move on to the Bears, who just let go of Justin Fields last night for a 6th-round pick. Now, I know that could become a 4th-rounder, but yeah, I mean, really, when you're looking at the contract, yes, I know that next year, his 5th season, it would have ballooned to a $20 million contract, but for this year, it was just a couple $1 million, and I don't know. I mean, I get it. They got the number 1 pick, so they want to start the clock over at the quarterback position. They also went out and traded a 4th-rounder for Keenan Allen and loaded up the wide receiver core there. Now they have DJ Moore and Allen, along with Cole Kmet. And so the Bears are making some moves, and we'll see what's in store. If it's Caleb Williams at the number 1 pick, he's definitely walking into a lot better situation than what Justin Fields did. So, am I going to sit here and cry for Justin Fields that he got a raw deal? I don't know. They made moves for him last year, and he didn't really put up any better wins than the previous season. So, we'll see. I think that the Bears have enough around what should be Caleb Williams that their win total will improve. But again, it's a rookie quarterback, so your guess is as good as mine. And I think that when it comes to quarterbacks, we've seen that the NFL scouts are guessing themselves. So we'll move on, though. With the Bears, we also saw them bring in DeAndre Swift. So that was another great acquisition for them. Sort of settles down their running back room. Last year it was just a heaping pile of a mess, right? With Roshan Johnson and Deontay Foreman, and then Khalil Herbert. Nobody knew who to pick. I just avoided the situation altogether. And now this year, with Swift walking in, I think we know who the main guy will be. So I'm not going to go crazy over Swift. I don't see him necessarily producing any more than what he did in Philly. But he won't. I mean, I don't see Caleb Williams as much of a runner as Jalen Hurts is. He still can definitely run, but he's not going to be stealing 15 rushing touchdowns away from DeAndre Swift, so maybe Swift gets a few more touchdowns. Again, it comes down to how good that Bears offense actually is and what kind of red zone opportunities they do get in this next season. So we'll see what happens. Darnell Mooney then left. He was the wide receiver 3. He took his talent down to Atlanta as we move on to the NFC South. Of course, Falcons made the biggest splash of everyone, at least in regards to fantasy, and I would say in general in real football, by bringing Kirk Cousins aboard. Kirk Cousins blows up the value of Drake London and Kyle Pitts. He helps out Bijan Robinson. There should be more scoring opportunities. I mean, Arthur Smith left town. They brought in a Rams guy to run a more explosive style offense. I think that the Falcons will throw it close to the same amount that the Vikings did last year, which again I said was 37 times a game. That was third in the league. So I see the prospects for Drake London and Kyle Pitts improving dramatically. If you break down the numbers, they might not look as big on the surface. Vikings threw it 37 times a game. The Falcons threw it only 31 times. It's only 6 attempts, right? Well, think about those 6 attempts, right? Those 6 attempts, you break them down, probably 2 are going to London, 2 are going to Pitts, 1 will go to Mooney, the other 1 will go to Bijan or someone else, right? 2 targets extra a game. It's almost 35 a season. 35 extra targets for the season equates to maybe 25 extra catches, and at whatever, 12 to 15 yards a catch, you're looking at 25 catches and maybe 300 extra yards. Who knows how many touchdowns extra for someone like Drake London. You could look at something similar being added to Kyle Pitts. So I think we'll finally realize what we drafted each of those guys for, or traded for each of those guys for over the last couple of seasons. We've all been hoping for this, and it should be pretty exciting in Atlanta. Now, if we roll over in the NFC South, come to like Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who were able to basically just bring everybody back. Brought in Mike Evans, kept him, brought Baker Mayfield back. Should be a solid run, smooth offense. Again, they also brought in a Rams guy, so I don't see the passing volume going down at all in Tampa. It's just a matter of the guys staying healthy and keeping Baker upright, and we'll see. Personally, I think that Tampa did the right thing. They made the right moves. In fact, yesterday it was shown that they converted Mike Evans' contract. $17 million out of the $26 million that was set for this season went into a signing bonus. Jason Lick, the GM down in Tampa, making those chess moves. He is well aware that there's no state tax in the state of Florida, and Mike Evans is too. So he's not stupid. He took the money, took it to the bank, right? So it's a win-win for both. I love it having Mike back. And so I think Tampa should be around as good as they were before. I'm not expecting the Super Bowl, but I do think we can get to the playoffs and then see what happens, right? The New Orleans Saints didn't do much. I could see them making a move or two come the draft, particularly at wide receiver. They did get rid of Mike Thomas finally, and they still have Olave and Rashid Shaheed, as well as A.T. Perry. They'll probably throw in somebody else into the mix, maybe later on in the draft. Again, this is a really solid wide receiver class, and the Saints usually do take advantage of that. It's hard to say, they are a pretty well-run organization. They are masterminds of the salary cap, and they figure out ways to make it happen. But it's almost to the point where that Drew Brees time is finally catching up with them. What they do generally is they keep adding these void years onto contracts, pushing the money down the road, and now it's finally catching up to them in New Orleans. Derek Carr's still there for another season at least. They have an out after this next season, 2024. So I could see Derek Carr out of New Orleans. We'll see what happens to the Saints. Never counting them out. They're always a tough divisional opponent for us. So we'll see. But at the bottom of the South, we have the Carolina Panthers, who also made a big move in bringing Deontay Johnson in. So that should help out Bryce Young immensely. Young struggled last season, completing passes just everywhere. And all he had really was Adam Thielen. I mean, DJ Chark and Jonathan Mingo kind of didn't do a lot for him. So now bringing a target hog like Deontay Johnson, who over the last 3 seasons has the best open rate of any wide receiver in the league. So he knows how to get open. Bryce Young, as small as he is, he can't avoid the pressure enough to find a wide open receiver. So I do love the prospects of Deontay Johnson this coming season. Can't really get any worse than it was in Pittsburgh last year. So moving over to the NFC West, we have the San Francisco 49ers not doing a whole lot other than losing Sam Darnold, who was a backup quarterback. So they have Brandon Allen, I believe, as their backup quarterback now. Could see them draft someone, maybe add in a different veteran as the third quarterback or someone to battle Brandon Allen. We haven't seen anything on the Brandon Ayuk front yet, so I think that he's going to be back there in San Francisco. We'll wait and see on that. And then moving upwards into the Northwest, we've got the Seattle Seahawks, who, like we said, brought in Sam Howell. And so Sam Howell coming in, it does question the stability of Geno Smith's position as the starter. So that's going to be the most interesting quarterback battle of the offseason, I believe. I do see with the new offense, a new offensive coordinator coming in, that DK gets a very slight bump. JSN and Tyler Lockett, whatever. Tyler Lockett is super cheap anyway. If you really want to go that route, maybe you're in a league, deeper league, and wide receivers, you need 7 or 8 of them, then Tyler Lockett is a nice, decent buy for a third rounder. JSN, on the other hand, is pretty polarizing right now. If you look over on Twitter or X, you'll see either you love him or hate him. And personally, I've got him in a couple of leagues. I'm just holding right now. I don't see that he's someone that I want to just give away. I mean, realistically, come on, the guy comes into a situation where there's already DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett there. What did you really expect of him his rookie season? Okay, so I do think that he'll get more targets this season, and we'll see how many that is. Again, there should be more passing volume in that offense, so I think that JSN actually could flourish. And that would go against the grain of someone who performed at the level that he did as a rookie, but I don't want to call JSN an outlier. It's hard to predict those outliers. So again, I'm not openly out there trading for him, but if someone acquires of JSN for you, just evaluate your team and see if you want to hang on to that young stud, or on the other hand, if they're maybe offering you a more solid option, more solid veteran. It depends. I mean, his value is anywhere from, I've seen anywhere from the 108, 109 all the way to a mid-second. All right, so it's hard to say what exactly I would buy JSN for, and that's why I'm not actively out there trying to acquire him. Okay. DK Metcalf, on the other hand, if you can get him for 109 late first, I would go ahead and do that if you're contending. I would much rather have DK Metcalf as a proven veteran than a Brian Thomas or Xavier Worthy or one of the other receivers in that tier that's just a rookie. You don't know what you're going to be getting from them. They completely flame out. They could be Jalen Reagor. Maybe they could turn into Justin Jefferson, but how many Justin Jeffersons are really out there, right? So it's more likely for them to fail than to succeed. The most likely path is just an average wide receiver. So why not take the known quantity in a DK Metcalf? You pretty much know what you're getting from him. And as I said, with the volume probably increasing there, DK could be in for a real big season. Who knows? I also see Noah Fant as a buy. He re-signed in Seattle. Fant's somebody you can get super cheap. I just got him in a Dynasty startup best ball in like round 20. So, I mean, if you can get him for a third, fourth rounder, go ahead and do it. Who knows what the situation is of the Fant owner. Hell, he might even be available on waivers in your league. So go ahead and check out Noah Fant. Sam Howell, very interesting. As I spoke earlier about the trade, it was the 109 for Josh Downs and Sam Howell. So, yeah, I wouldn't say that Josh Downs is worth the 109. Josh Downs is probably worth more like a mid-second right now, I'd say. So tossing in Howell, well, he wants to live on the wild side with old Sam, and we'll see. I mean, Sam can definitely throw it. We saw that in Washington last year. So if you're willing to be risky at your third or fourth quarterbacks, maybe check the doors on the guy who has Sam Howell in your league. All right. Moving on, we have the Rams and the Cardinals both acquiring backup quarterbacks. The Rams signed Jimmy G, who of course will miss the first 2 games, but shouldn't really matter since he'll be behind Matt Stafford. And the Cardinals went out and traded Rondale Moore over to the Falcons to pump up their wide receiver room even more. And they got Desmond Ridder in return to back up Kyler. So now the Falcons are looking at, because they also, as I mentioned earlier, they brought in Darnell Mooney. So the Falcons are just loading up that offense. It's going to be a circus there. They've got Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Rondale Moore, of course Kyle Pitts for Kirk Cousins to sling it around to, and then Bijan feasting in the backfield. So that's all I've got for the NFC free agency frenzy. Again, next show we'll be looking at the AFC, and we should get that one out tomorrow. I want to thank you viewers for tuning in. Love you guys for being out there and checking me out. You can also see my thoughts on clemke007_FF on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days. And please don't forget to never stop.